He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. And by his stripes we are healed.
All right, guys, welcome back
We're going to get into reading St. Augustine's Confessions again. I think I had saved it at part 16 of book 1. This is a pretty intense reading, but I hope to get, at least an hour of reading in today to see where we get. Seems that a lot of people last time were commenting that they read this book before. I haven't, so, I'm interested in it. And I was enjoying it last time, so I hope you all will too. And shout out to Gregatron, who has done the RFK challenge and shouted out all the good people. He says, whenever you say Confessions, I think of Usher. Me too. Me too. I love that album. So good. So many memories. These are my confessions. Just when I thought I said all I could say, my chick on the side said she got one on the way. What a mess. Okay, guys, not those confessions. We all have confessions to make, don't we? Every one of us have fallen short of the glory of God. I was thinking about that today in church when we were praying, and we did communion today as the first Sunday of the month. We usually do communion as a church family, so. And then I went and got me a little Cafe Umbria, guys. A little Cafe Umbria. This is like a coconut drink. So it could use some like actual milk in it. I think they put coconut milk in it. It's not as good, but I am grateful for it anyway. Yeah, JB missed church. That's okay, Jamie, though. You were there in spirit. And we definitely missed having you too. But I don't know. I had a nice time. Not too intense, and the sermon was really good today too. The main takeaway was that we have to be in relationship with God on His terms, not our own. Gave me a lot to think about. 16. But we are carried away by custom to our own undoing, and it is hard to struggle against the stream. Will this torrent never dry up? How much longer will it sweep the sons of Adam down to that vast and terrible sea which cannot easily be passed, even by those who climb upon the ark of the cross? The cross, not crossed. This traditional education taught me that Jupiter punishes the wicked with his thunderbolts, and yet commits adultery himself. The two roles are quite incompatible. All the same, he is represented in this way, and the result is that those who follow his example in adultery can put a bold face on it by making false pretenses of thunder. But can any schoolmaster in his gown listen unperturbed to a man who challenges him on his own ground and says, Homer invented these stories and attributed human sins to the gods? He would have done better to provide men with examples of divine goodness. It would be nearer the truth to say that Homer certainly invented the tales, but peopled them with wicked human characters in the guise of gods. In this way, their wickedness would not be reckoned a crime, and all who did as they did could be shown to follow the example of the heavenly gods, not that of sinful mortals. You know what? I was saying to Jamie this morning, before we went our separate ways, that the only god in like the Greek pantheon that didn't commit adultery against his wife was Hades. Which is, I thought, was always really an interesting thing. Like, his wife was gone half of the year. Persephone would be she lived half of the year in the underworld in Hades, and then she would live half the year, here on Earth, among the living. But he never committed adultery. He never like coveted another woman. I thought that was so interesting, that example, that like the only god of that pantheon, or at least major god, that like actually, is faithful to his wife was Hades, which is kind of interesting because he's this like dark figure. But it makes sense when you kind of look at their whole story. Mythology is interesting. Did y'all just see Nero just now? Did you see him jump up there? I don't. He jumped back down. I don't know. My best friend in high school, she always used to write cool like that. That was always how she spelt it. Shout out to her. Yeah. Okay. Let me continue. And yet human children are pitched into this hellish torrent, together with the fees which are paid to have them taught lessons like these. Much business is at stake, too, when these matters are publicly debated, because the law decrees that teachers should be paid a salary in addition to the fees paid by their pupils. And the roar of the torrent beating upon its boulders seems to say, "This is a school where men are made masters of words. This is where they learn the art of persuasion, so necessary in business and debate." As much as to say that, but for a certain passage in Terence, we should never have heard of words like shower, golden, lap, deception, sky, and the other words which occur in the same scene. Terence brings onto the stage a dissolute youth who excuses his own fornication by pointing to the example of Jupiter. He looks at a picture painted on the wall which shows how Jupiter is said to have deceived the girl Danae by raining a golden shower into her lap. Please don't make any jokes, guys. Please. These are the words with which he incites himself to lechery, as though he had heavenly authority for it. What a god he is! His mighty thunder rocks the sky from end to end. You may say that I am only a man, and thundering is beyond my power, but I played the rest of the part well enough, and willingly too. The words are certainly not learnt any the more easily by reason of the filthy moral, that filth is committed with greater confidence as a result of learning the words. I have nothing against the words themselves. They are like choice and costly glasses, but they contain the wine of error which had already gone to the heads of the teachers who poured it out for us to drink. If we refused to drink, we were beaten for it, without the right to appeal to a sober judge. With your eyes upon me, my God, my memory can safely recall those days, but it is true that I learned all these things gladly and took a sinful pleasure in them. And for this very reason, I was called a promising boy. Hey, Gaddy, thanks. I like doing the live readings, That way we can talk about it. It's not just, an audio thing. It's like a reading and discussion. Let me tell you, my God, how I squandered the brains you gave me on foolish delusions. Hey, we've all been there. Hit like or press 1 in the chat if you've ever squandered the brains God gave you on foolish delusions. I was set a task which troubled me greatly, for if I were successful, I might win some praise. If not, I was afraid of disgrace or a beating. I had to recite the speech of Juno, who was pained and angry because she could not prevent Aeneas from sailing to Italy. I had been told that Juno had never really spoken the words, but we were compelled to make believe and follow the flight of the poet's fancy by repeating in prose what he said in verse. The contest was to be won by the boy who found the best words to suit the meaning and best expressed feelings of sorrow and anger appropriate to the majesty of the character he impersonated. Right on, Missy Maud. Me too. What did all this matter to me, my God, my true life? Why did my recitation win more praise than those of the many other boys in my class? Surely it was all so much smoke without fire. Was there no other subject on which I might have sharpened my wits and my tongue? I might have used them, O Lord, to praise you in the words of your scriptures, which could have been a prop to support my heart, as if it were a young vine, so that it would not have produced this crop of worthless fruit, fit only for the birds to peck at. For offerings can be made to those birds of prey, the fallen angels, in more ways than one. Okay. Shout out to Greg and Sean. Thank you for the super chat. Guys, if we hit 5 super chats, I will, at the end of this stream, this reading, open up a new stream and make it a chill stream, which means y'all could join me. So dig deep into those pockets because we only have 4 more donations of the teal color to make, which I think is like $5 or more. Yeah, Usher. I love Usher. I don't care. They can't make me hate Usher. I'm a millennial. I like it his way. You know? I'm trying to think of other Usher jokes. Yeah. Okay. I like that. The worthless fruit, the producing a crop of worthless fruit that the birds of prey were to peck at, or the fallen angels. I definitely felt that way at times in my life when I was in error. That definitely kind of coalesced with my spiritual awakening, where I kind of like just had this realization that my life was not bearing any fruit. That was a hard lesson to learn, but I'm glad that I saw the truth in that. But was it surprising that I was lured into these fruitless pastimes and wandered away from you, my God? I was expected to model myself upon men who were disconcerted by the rebukes they received if they used outlandish words or strange idioms to tell of some quite harmless thing they might have done, but reveled in the applause they earned for the fine flow of well-ordered and nicely balanced phrases with which they described their own acts of indecency. You see all these things, Lord, and yet you keep silence because you are patient and full of compassion and can tell no lie. Will you be silent forever? This very day you are ready to rescue from this fearsome abyss any soul that searches for you, any man who says from the depths of his heart, I have eyes only for you, I long, Lord, for your presence. For the soul that is blinded by wicked passions is far from you and cannot see your face. The path that leads us away from you and brings us back again is not measured by footsteps or milestones. The prodigal son of the scriptures went to live in a distant land to waste in dissipation all the wealth which his father had given him when he set out. But to reach that land, he did not hire horses, carriages, or ships. He did not take to the air on real wings or set one foot before the other. For you were the Father who gave him riches. You loved him when he set out, and you loved him still more when he came home without a penny. But he set his heart on pleasure, and his soul was blinded. And this blindness was the measure of the distance he traveled away from you, so that he could not see your face. O Lord my God, be patient, as you always are, with the men of this world, as you watch them and see how strictly they obey the rules of grammar which have been handed down to them, and yet ignore the eternal rules of everlasting salvation which they have received from you. A man who has learnt the traditional rules of pronunciation or teaches them to others gives greater scandal if he breaks them by dropping the H from human being than if he breaks your rules and hates another human, his fellow man. This is just as perverse as to imagine that our enemies can do us more harm than we do to ourselves by hating them. Deep. That is so true. Anybody listening, you will hurt yourself more by hating someone than they could ever do to you, or by holding on to anger. It will only hurt you. Or that by persecuting another man, we can damage him more fatally than we damage our own hearts in the process. O God, alone in majesty, high in the silence of heaven, unseen by man, we can see how your unremitting justice punishes unlawful ambition with blindness. For a man who longs for fame as a fine speaker will stand up before a human judge, surrounded by a human audience, and lash his opponent with malicious invective, taking the greatest care not to say human instead of human by a slip of the tongue. And yet the thought that the frenzy in his own mind may condemn a human being to death disturbs him not at all. Let's see. What up, Wolf Den in the chat? That's cool. He was at a Japanese festival. Oh, thank you, Jamie Russell. Okay, we've got 2 donations, guys. 3 more. 3 more. No, we can do it. We can do it. Come on. Dig deep. Thank you, Jamie. He says winning. We're going to stay winning. Hello, Quad Balls. I don't... Interesting. What is this? And lo, they went from one place to another place, and they were sore afraid, but trod the narrow path to reclaim virginity. Huh. Can you reclaim virginity? I don't know if I believe in that. Like, I don't really care too much about it, though, too, because a lot of people, like, debate about that or, like, talk about it, and I think it's just indecent overall. They get a sexual thrill talking about it either way, like, whatever. Other thing is, a person could be a virgin, but they could be totally morally and sexually corrupt just by what's in their heart and mind. So remember that too. Anyway, y'all like this book? I'm liking it. It was at the threshold of a world such as this that I stood in peril as a boy. I was already being prepared for its tournaments by a training which taught me to have a horror of faulty grammar, instead of teaching me, when I committed these faults, not to envy others who avoided them. All this, my God, I admit and confess to you. By these means I won praise from the people whose favor I sought, for I thought that the right way to live was to do as they wished. I was blind to the whirlpool of debasement in which I had been plunged away from the sight of your eyes. For in your eyes nothing could be more debased than I was then, since I was even troublesome to the people whom I set out to please. Many and many a time I lied to my tutor, my masters, and my parents, and deceived them because I wanted to play games or watch some futile show, or was impatient to imitate what I saw on the stage. I even stole from my parents' larder and from their table, either from greed or to get something to give to other boys in exchange for their favorite toys, which they were willing to barter with me. And in the games I played with them, I often cheated in order to come off the better, simply because I was simply because a vain desire to win had gotten the better of me. And yet there was nothing I could less easily endure, nothing that made me quarrel more bitterly than to find others cheating me as I had cheated them. All the same, if they found me out and blamed me for it, I would lose my temper rather than give in. Can this be the innocence of childhood? Far from it. O Lord, but I beg you to forgive it, for commanders and kings may take the place of tutors and schoolmasters. Nuts and balls and pet birds may give way to money and estates and servants. But these same passions remain with us while one stage of life follows upon another, just as more severe punishments follow upon the schoolmaster's cane. It was then simply because they are small that you use children to symbolize humility, when, as our king, you commended it by saying that the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And yet, Lord, even if you had willed that I should not survive my childhood, I should have owed you gratitude, because you are our God, the supreme good, the creator and ruler of the universe. For even as a child I existed, I was alive, I had the power of feeling, I had an instinct to keep myself safe and sound, to preserve my own being, which was a trace of the single unseen being from whom it was derived. I had an inner sense which watched over my bodily senses and kept them in full vigor. And even in the small things which occupied my thoughts, I found pleasure in the truth. I disliked finding myself in the wrong. My memory was good. I was acquiring the command of words. I enjoyed the company of friends, and I shrank from pain, ignorance, and sorrow. Should I not be grateful that so small a creature possessed such wonderful qualities? But they were all gifts from God, for I did not give them to myself. His gifts are good, and the sum of them all is my own self. Therefore, the God who made me must be good, and all the good in me is His. I thank Him and praise Him for all the good in my life, even my life as a boy. But my sin was this, that I looked for pleasure, beauty, and truth not in Him, but in myself and His other creatures. And the search led me instead to pain, confusion, and error. My God, in whom is my delight, my glory, and my trust, I thank you for your gifts and beg you to preserve and keep them for me. Keep me too, and so your gifts will grow and reach perfection. And I shall be with you myself, for I should not even exist if it were not by your gift. How lovely. Hey, Amy's here. Hi, Amy. Thank you for the super. Okay, guys, that's 2 more to go. 2 more teals, and I will do a chill stream tonight. Are you down for that? Then dig deep. Thank you so much, Amy. I can't see the sticker, but let me pull it up. Give me just a second. I'm at the end of the chapter, so I can get in here and see what you sent. I love those super stickers. I love sending a super sticker and see what you, because, you know, a lot of the time I don't know what to say. How's it going? That's cute, that little pear. Oh, that's cute. Thank you. No, Amy Ferguson is not sweet Amy, although she is a sweet Amy. She's not the sweet Amy. Hey, Tarbaby Yoda. He says, hey, Terryberry. Yoda, I have to chastise you. Jared wrote to me and said he cannot come on my panels anymore because Tarbaby Yoda is too disturbing and disgusting. You scared off Jared. Bad Yoda. I did think it was pretty gross so far. I was like, ugh. Not everyone can take your humor, Yoda. Not everyone can take it. And Jared's a nice guest. Yeah, he is. He's a decent guest. You gotta be careful. I'm not going to repeat what you were saying, but it was messy. Oh, Lord. I just can't hate you. That's the thing. Yoda is crazy sometimes, but you just can't hate him. You just can't. Okay, we're on book 2. Let's hear more about how this guy, what our fine St. Augustine has done. I know you like Jared, but not everybody can take your humor, you know. You know you're being messy. Anyway, let's continue. I will read on. Glad you're here, though. Thanks for being here. I must now carry my thoughts back to the abominable things I did in those days, the sins of the flesh which defiled my soul. I do this, my God, not because I love those sins, but so that I may love you. For love of your love, I shall retrace my wicked ways. The memory is bitter, but it will help me to savor your sweetness, the sweetness that does not deceive, but brings real joy and never fails. For love of your love, I shall retrieve myself from the havoc of disruption which tore me to pieces when I turned away from you, whom alone I should have sought, and lost myself instead on many a different quest. For as I grew to manhood, I was inflamed with desire for a surfeit of hell's pleasures. Foolhardy as I was, I ran wild with lust that was manifold and rank. In your eyes my beauty vanished, and I was foul to the core. Yet I was pleased with my own condition, and anxious to be pleasing in the eyes of men. Hello, Rusky. Doing good. Doing good. Nice to see you. I cared for nothing but to love and be loved, but my love went beyond the affection of one mind for another. Beyond the arc of the bright beam of friendship, bodily desire, like a morass, and adolescent sex welling up within me, exuded mists which clouded over and obscured my heart, so that I could not distinguish the clear light of true love from the murk of lust. Love and lust together seethed within me. In my tender youth, they swept me away over the precipice of my body's appetites and plunged me into the whirlpool of sin. More and more I angered you unawares, for I had been deafened by the clank of my chains, the fetters of the death which was my due to punish the pride in my soul. I strayed still farther from you, and you did not restrain me. I was tossed and spilled, floundering in the broiling sea of my fornication. Dang. And you said no word. How long it was before I learned that you were my true joy. You were silent then, and I went on my way farther and farther from you. proud in my distress and restless in fatigue, sowing more and more seeds whose only crop was grief. I mean, that's pretty much fornication in a nutshell, isn't it? Sowing seeds of grief. I've thought about that, like just the way that the rampant fornication of the age has just left people so bitter and so, I don't know, frightened and hurt. It's like, and yeah, it's grief that they're in, a lot of them. When you look at it, I see all, especially like in the, I don't even know what to call it, but you see all, I get so many like recommendations for like these reaction channels where either guys or girls are responding to guys and girls talking about like their experiences, or they're just like, they're so embittered, but you can see that it's like they're not really angry at these people because they don't know them, but they're just, their soul is going through the stages of grief. You know, they're like in a stage of anger, denial, like they go through all of these stages. You can see it, but they're not even aware that they're grieving because of their own fornication. Resky says he enjoys my lives. Right on. I hope they're enjoyable. Some more than others, I'm sure. I need more light on me over here. It's like dark, isn't it? Let's see if I can move this over slightly and get a little more light. I like moved it over quite a bit. There we go. Directly on me. It'll still be pretty dark. Sheesh. All right, where was I? Was there no one to lull my distress, to turn the fleeting beauty of these newfound attractions to good purpose and set up a goal for their charms, so that the high tide of my youth might have rolled in upon the shore of marriage? The surge might have been calmed and contented by the procreation of children, which is the purpose of marriage as your law prescribes. O Lord, by this means you form the offspring of our fallen nature, and with a gentle hand you prune back the thorns that have no place in your paradise. For your almighty power is not far from us, even when we are far from you. Or again, I might have listened more attentively to your voice from the clouds, saying of those who marry that they will meet with outward distress. But I leave you your freedom, that a man does well to abstain from all commerce with women, and that he who is unmarried is concerned with God's claim, asking how he is to please God, whereas the married man is concerned with the world's claim, asking how he is to please his wife. These were the words to which I should have listened with more care, and if I had made myself a eunuch for the love of the kingdom of heaven, I should have awaited your embrace with all the greater joy. Gregatron says, Jamie, did you say you guys have a Star Wars store over there? We have we came upon like a lightsaber store. I don't know that it's a Star Wars theme one, but it was cool.
We gotta take you to that toy shop.
Toy shop? Which one?
The one with all the cool Japanese toys and window, you know, that like.
Oh yeah, right over there, the Koyakama or whatever. Yeah, he'd probably like that. And then, yeah, I think that would be cool, definitely. And then, oh heck, they do like a Star Wars on ice or lightsabers on ice at the Lloyd Center. I found out they do it like once a month, where they have people dress up in Star Wars gear and they go ice skating. And so I guess they have the like lightsabers out. So yeah, there's some stuff like that I definitely think you would enjoy. Risky says, I used to do lives. I had to start over when I bought a new cell phone. I did philosophy streams. Right on, right on. You didn't remember your password or something? Well, let me continue. But instead, I was in a ferment of wickedness. I deserted you and allowed myself to be carried away by the sweep of the tide. I broke all your lawful bounds and did not escape your lash. For what man can escape it? You were always present, angry and merciful at once, strewing the pangs of bitterness over all my lawless pleasures to lead me on to look for others unallied with pain. You meant me to find them nowhere but in yourself. O Lord, for you teach us by inflicting pain, you smite so that you may heal, and you kill us so that we may not die away from you. Where was I then, and how far was I banished from the bliss of your house in that 16th year of my life? This was the age at which the frenzy gripped me, and I surrendered myself entirely to lust, which your law forbids, but human hearts are not ashamed to sanction. My family made no effort to save me from my fall by marriage. Their only concern was that I should learn how to make a good speech and how to persuade others by my words. That's too bad. Oh, Disney on Ice. Oh, yeah, they used to do that back in Alaska. I remember they had some things like that. Shout out to Matthew in the chat. He says, Hola. And Karmic Binding says, the Schwartz is wrong with this one. Or is strong with this one, not wrong with this one. I think he's implying something about my ethnic makeup, perhaps, which is false. Oh my God. Look at this. See, it don't have the right color. It needs to have regular milk in it, or it like has this dark color and it's thinner. It's not as good. Oh well. I didn't know what to get, so I just ordered what was on the like their seasonal special thing. I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I didn't think about what was in it and the fact that I would not be satisfied. But anyway. In the same year, my studies were interrupted. I had already begun to go to the nearby town of Majora to study literature and the art of public speaking. But I was brought back home while my father, a modest citizen of the Gast, the Geest. Do you know about this place, the Gast? Whose determination was greater than his means, saved up the money to send me farther afield to Carthage. I need not tell all this to you, my God, but in your presence I tell it to my own kind, to those other men, however few, who may perhaps pick up this book. Hey, that's us. Thanks, St. Augustine. And I tell it so that I and all who read my words may realize the depths from which we are to cry to you. Your ears will surely listen to the cry of a penitent heart, which lives the life of faith. No one had anything but praise for my father, who, despite his slender resources, was ready to provide his son with all that was needed to enable him to travel so far for the purpose of study. Many of our townsmen, far richer than my father, went to no such trouble for their children's sake. Yet this same father of mine took no trouble at all to see how I was growing in your sight, or whether I was chaste or not. He cared only that I should have a fertile tongue, leaving my heart to bear none of your fruits. My God, though you are the only master, true and good, of its husbandry. In the meanwhile, during my 16th year, the narrow means of my family obliged me to leave school and live idly at home with my parents. The brambles of lust grew high above my head, and there was no one to root them out, certainly not my father. One day, at the public baths, he saw the signs of active virility coming to life in me, and this was enough to make him relish the thought of having grandchildren. He was happy to tell my mother about it, for his happiness was due to the intoxication which causes the world to forget you, its creator, and to love the things you haven't created instead of loving you, because the world is drunk with the invisible wine of its own perverted earthbound will. But in my mother's heart you had already begun to build your temple and laid the foundations of your holy dwelling. While my father was still a catechumen, and a new one at that, so in her piety she became alarmed and apprehensive, and although I had not yet been baptized, she began to dread that I might follow in the crooked path of those who do not keep their eyes on you, but turn their backs instead. How presumptuous it was of me to say that you were silent, my God, when I drifted farther and farther away from you. Can it be true that you said nothing to me at that time? Surely the words which rang in my ears, spoken by your faithful servant, my mother, could have come from none but you. Can it be true that you... Well, oh, sorry, I don't want to repeat that. Yet none of them sank into my heart and make me do as you said. I well remember that her wishes were, and how she most earnestly warned me not to commit fornication, and above all not to seduce any man's wife. It all seemed womanish advice to me, and I should have blushed to accept it, yet the words were yours, though I did not know it. I thought that you were silent and that she was speaking, but all the while you were speaking to me through her, and when I disregarded her, your handmaid, I was disregarding you, though I was both her son and your servant. But I did this unawares and continued headlong on my way. I was so blind to the truth that among my companions I was ashamed to be less dissolute than they were, for I heard them bragging of their depravity, and the greater the sin, the more they gloried in it, so that I took pleasure in the same vices, not only for the enjoyment of what I did, but also for the applause I won. I think about this too, like, at least when I was growing up, like, amongst my peers, at least in public school, you were a freak if you were like a virgin into your like senior year of high school or something. Like there was something there was considered to be something wrong. And I've been thinking about it lately too, because Pearl has been talking about that, and she's talking about how, men say they like prize virgins, but like women that remain virgins generally are not desired or sought after by men. Generally, like it's not really a good mating strategy long term for women to remain chaste. And as much as it's tough. It's like there's one thing to understand like what is true in the world, and then there's God's truth, and like having a balance about it. There is truth in what she says, because like human hearts are wicked, and what they want is, and purity and chastity are not really valued. You don't really win among your peers when you exhibit those traits. You're seen as like suspicious, or you're seen as like awkward or just boring. You're not fun. And then later on in life, you're shamed for it. See, that's what the devil does. He tempts you, he brings you down the rabbit hole, and then he kicks you when you're down. But you have to understand, like, it's not people. When we talk to people, we have to understand it's a spiritual battle. We're not talking to people. We're talking to the spirits, that inhabit them. So anyway, let's continue. Nothing deserves to be despised more than vice, yet I gave in more and more to vice, simply in order not to be despised. If I had not sinned enough to rival other sinners, I used to pretend that I had done things I had not done at all. Oh, I've done that too. To fit in when I was like a teenager, I remember like acting like I was, I don't know, more of a sinner than I was. That is sick when I think about it now, like how twisted we become. Okay, because I was afraid that innocence would be taken for cowardice and chastity for weakness. Wow. These were the companions with whom I walked the streets of Babylon. I wallowed in its mire as if it were made of spices and precious ointments. And to fix me all the faster in the very depths of sin, the unseen enemy trod me underfoot and enticed me to himself, because I was an easy prey for his seductions. But even my mother, who by now had escaped from the center of Babylon, though she still loitered in its outskirts, did not act upon what she had heard about me from her husband with the same earnestness as she had advised me about chastity. She saw that I was already infected with a disease that would become dangerous later on. But if the growth of my passions could not be cut back to the quick, she did not think it right to restrict them to the bounds of married love. This was because she was afraid that the bonds of marriage might be a hindrance to my hopes for the future. Not, of course, the hope of the life to come, which she reposed in you, but my hopes of success at my studies. Both my parents were unduly eager for me to learn. My father, because he gave next to no thought to you, and only shallow thought to me, and my mother, because she thought that the usual course of study would certainly not hinder me, but would even help me in my approach to you. To the best of my memory, this is how I construe the characters of my parents. Furthermore, I was given a free rein to amuse myself beyond the strict limits of discipline, so that I lost myself in many kinds of evil ways, in all of which a pall of darkness hung between me and the bright light of your truth, my God. What malice proceeded from my pampered heart? It is certain, O Lord, that theft is punished by your law, the law that is written in men's hearts and cannot be erased, however sinful they are. For no thief can bear that another thief should steal from him, even if he is rich and the other is driven to it by want. Yet I was willing to steal, and steal I did, although I was not compelled by any lack, unless it were the lack of a sense of justice or a distaste for what was right and a greedy love of doing wrong. For of what I stole I already had plenty, and much better at that. And I had no wish to enjoy the things I coveted by stealing, but only to enjoy the theft itself and the sin. There was a pear tree near our vineyard, loaded with fruit that was attractive neither to look at nor to taste. Late one night, a band of ruffians, myself included, went off to shake down the fruit and carry it away. For we had continued our games of out of doors until well after dark, as was our pernicious habit. We took away an enormous quantity of pears, not to eat them ourselves, but simply to throw them to the pigs. Perhaps we ate some of them, but our real pleasure consisted in doing something that was forbidden. Look into my heart, O God, the same heart on which you took pity when it was in the depths of the abyss. Let my heart now tell you what prompted me to do wrong for no purpose, and why it was only my own love of mischief that made me do it. The evil in me was foul, but I loved it. I loved my own perdition and my own faults, not the things for which I committed wrong, but the wrong itself. My soul was vicious and broke away from your safekeeping to seek its own destruction, looking for no profit in disgrace, but only for disgrace itself. The eye is attracted by beautiful objects, by gold and silver and all such things. There is great pleasure, too, in feeling something agreeable to the touch. And material things have various qualities to please each of the other senses. Again, it is gratifying to be held in esteem by other men and to have the power of giving them orders and gaining the mastery over them. This is also the reason why revenge is sweet, but our ambition to obtain all these things must not lead us astray from you, O Lord. Nor must we depart from what your law allows. The life we live on earth has its own attractions as well, because it has a certain beauty of its own in harmony with all the rest of the world's beauty. Friendship among men, too, is a delightful bond, uniting many souls in one. All these things and their like can be occasions of sin, because good though they are of the lowest order of good, and if we are too much tempted by them, we abandon those higher and better things, your truth, your law, and you yourself. O Lord our God, for these earthly things too can give joy, though not such joy as my God, who made them all, can give. Because honest men will rejoice in the Lord, upright hearts will not boast in vain. When there is an inquiry to discover why a crime has been committed, normally no one is satisfied until it has been shown that the motive might have been either the desire of gaining or the fear of losing. One of those good things which I said were of the lowest order, for such things are attractive and have beauty, although they are paltry trifles in comparison with the worth of God's blessed treasures. A man commits murder and we ask the reason. He did it because he wanted his victim's wife or estates for himself, or so that he might live on the proceeds of robbery, or because he was afraid that the other might defraud him of something, or because he had been wronged and was burning for revenge. Surely no one would believe that he could commit murder for no reason but the sheer delight of killing. Sallust tells us that Catiline was a man of insane ferocity, who chose to be cruel and vicious without apparent reason. But we are also told that his purpose was not to allow his men to lose heart or waste their skill through lack of practice. If we ask the reason for this, it is obvious that he meant that once he had made himself master of the government by means of this continual violence, he would obtain honor, power, and wealth, and would no longer go in fear of the law because of his crimes, or have to face difficulties through lack of funds. So even Catiline did not love crime for crime's sake. He loved something quite different, for which the sake of which he committed his crimes. That's right. Like, subscribe, share, Cash App, and Super Chat. Remember, guys, if I reach 5 teal Super Chats today, I'm going to start a new stream and we'll do a chill stream and hang out. So if you want that to happen, go on. And if you don't want to send a Super Chat, you can always Cash App me outside. All right, let's see. Hello to Richard Firks in the chat. Good to see you. Did you do any fishing today, Richard? All right, let's swirl the iced coffee. Look at that condensation dripping off of there. Why you sound like a school teacher? Because I have those kind of vibes. I've got school teacher, school librarian vibes. Okay, that's just what it is. That's right. Latina and Callie, you're a trendsetter. Thanks for being here. I mean, I do. I have those kind of vibes. I seem like the kind of lady you might find in a library. I remember, one time, like, I was watching the Hake Report, and just out of nowhere, it wasn't out of nowhere. They were talking about some kind of librarian thing, and Hake was like, I wonder if Terry was ever a librarian. I was like, what the? And I think the next time I called in, I was like, why did you think I was a librarian? Because I have a high verbal IQ, apparently. Oh, I just heard a lady scream. Let me take a little moment. When I got out of church today, I went over to the Goodwill boutique. I didn't find anything. And then I went to the park, and I was reciting Psalm 91. She's screaming again. Ooh. I was reciting Psalm 91 in one of the little park areas where a lot of people hang out and do drugs. And there was actually, as I was kind of going around in a circle, I found like a broken pipe. It was like broken glass from a broken pipe. I don't know. I don't know how. I never said I have a high verbal IQ. That's something that somebody else said about me. But it's probably true. But I don't know. I think it's just because I read a lot. Or I did. I don't read as much as I used to. But I do be reading. And the more you read, the higher a verbal IQ I think you will get. Just because you see proper grammar, you're used to reading it and comprehending it, and then you learn more words that way. Anyway, let me continue, okay, guys? We're only an hour in. If the crime of theft, which I committed that night as a boy of 16, were a living thing, I could speak to it and ask what it was that, to my shame, I loved in it. I had no beauty because it was a robbery. It is true that the pears which we stole had beauty because they were created by you, the good God, who are the most beautiful of all beings and the creator of all things, the supreme good and my own true good. But it was not the pears that my unhappy soul desired. I had plenty of my own. Better than those, and I only picked them so that I might steal. For no sooner had I picked them than I threw them away, and tasted nothing in them but my own sin, which I relished and enjoyed. If any part of one of those pears passed my lips, it was the sin that gave it flavor. And now, O Lord my God, now that I ask what pleasure I had in that theft, I find that it had no beauty to attract me. I do not mean the beauty of the sort that justice and prudence possess, nor the beauty that is in man's mind and in his memory and in the life that animates him, nor the beauty of the stars in their allotted places, or of the earth and sea, teeming with new life born to replace the old as it passes away. It did not even have the shadowy, deceptive beauty which makes vice attractive. Pride, for instance, which is a pretense of superiority, imitating yours. For you alone are God, supreme over all. Or ambition, which is only a craving for honor and glory, when you are alone are to be honored before all, and you alone are glorious forever. I might sneeze, guys. Maybe not. It was close. It was close. I was so close to sneezing, but then I didn't. Cruelty is the weapon of the powerful, used to make others fear them. Yet no one is to be feared but God alone, from whose power nothing can be snatched away or stolen by any man at any time or place or by any means. The lustful use caresses to win the love they crave for. Yet no caress is sweeter than your charity, and no love is more rewarding than the love of your truth, which shines in beauty above all else. Inquisitiveness has all the appearance of a thirst for knowledge, yet you have supreme knowledge of all things. Ignorance, too, and stupidity choose to go under the mask of simplicity and innocence, because you are simplicity itself, and no innocence is greater than yours. You are innocent even of the harm which overtakes the wicked, for it is the result of their own actions. Sloth poses as the love of peace, yet what certain peace is there besides the Lord? Extravagance masquerades as fullness and abundance, but you are the full and unfailing store of never-dying sweetness. The spendthrift makes a pretense of liberality, but you are the most generous dispenser of all good. The covetous may want many possessions for themselves, you possess all. The envious struggle for preferment, but what is to be preferred before you? Anger demands revenge, but what vengeance is as just as yours? Fear shrinks from any sudden, unwanted danger which threatens the things that it loves, for its only care is safety. But to you nothing is strange, nothing unforeseen. No one can part you from the things that you love, and safety is assured nowhere but in you. Grief eats away its heart for the loss of things which it took pleasure in desiring, because it wants to be like you, from whom nothing can be taken away. So the soul defiles itself with unchaste love when it turns away from you and looks elsewhere for things which it cannot find pure and unsullied except by returning to you. All who desert you and set themselves up against you merely copy you in a perverse way. But by this very act of imitation, they only show that you are the creator of all nature, and consequently that there is no place whatever where man may hide away from you. What was it then that pleased me in that act of theft? Which of my Lord's powers did I imitate in a perverse and wicked way? Since I had no real power to break his law, was it that I enjoyed at least a pretense of doing so? Like a prisoner who creates for himself the illusion of liberty by doing something wrong, when he has no fear of punishment under a feeble hallucination of power. Here was a slave who ran away from his master and chased a shadow instead. What an abomination! What a parody of life! What abysmal death! Could I enjoy doing wrong for no other reason than that it was wrong? What return shall I make to the Lord for my ability to recall these things with no fear in my soul? I will love you, Lord, and thank you. and praise your name, because you have forgiven me such great sins and such wicked deeds. I acknowledge that it was by your grace and mercy that you melted away my sins like ice. I acknowledge too that by your grace I was preserved from whatever sins I did not commit, for there was no knowing what I might have done, since I loved evil, even if it served no purpose. I avow that you have forgiven me all, both the sins which I committed of my own accord and those which by your guidance I was spared from committing. What man who reflects upon his own weakness can dare to claim that his own efforts have made him chaste and free from sin, as though this entitled him to love you the less, on the ground that he had less need of the mercy by which you forgive the sins of the penitent? There are some who have been called by you, and because they have listened to your voice, they have avoided the sins which I here record and confess for them to read. But let them not deride me for having been cured by the same doctor who preserved them from sickness, or at least from such grave sickness as mine. Let them love you just as much, or even more than I do, for they can see that the same healing hand which rid me of the great fever of my sins protects them from falling sick of the same disease. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We already went through this in Lupin's chat. She's not going to apologize. She doubled down, okay? She doubled down. Now, I don't know. Daniel says he forgives her, and that should be good enough for the rest of us. Shouldn't it? I don't know. I'm sure Gregatron is writing to her on Discord right now. Oh, pardon me, guys. I'm going to read a couple more chapters. I don't know what to call them. They're not really well, I guess they kind of are. Yeah, okay. I'll read till book 3, and then we'll stop for today. So, yeah, a few more. Hey, Latinea and Callie. Hey, shout out Latinea and Callie. She's got us to 4 today. We have 4 teal super chats we've received. She said, great books. Thank you. And so because of you, we're only 1 super chat away from having a chill stream tonight at the Terry Strange channel. Is this something you want? Are you willing to dig deep and make it happen? We've had Gregatron, Jamie Russell, Amy Ferguson, and Latin AI and Callie all contribute. Do you want to add your voice to the chorus? Dig deep and send a teal super chat. Thank you. Okay. All right, chapter 8. It brought me no happiness, for what harvest did I reap from acts which now make me blush, particularly from that act of theft? I loved nothing in it except the thieving, though I cannot truly speak of that as a thing that I could love, and I was only the more miserable because of it. And yet, as I recall my feelings at the time, I am quite sure that I would not have done it on my own. Was it then that I also enjoyed the company of those with whom I committed the crime? If this is so, there was something else I loved besides the act of theft. But I cannot call it something else, because companionship, like theft, is not a thing at all. No one can tell me the truth of it except my God, who enlightens my mind and dispels its shadows. What conclusion am I trying to reach from these questions in this discussion? It is true that if the pears which I stole had been to my taste, and if I had wanted to get them for myself, I might have committed the crime on my own if I had needed to do no more than to win myself the pleasure. I should have had no need to kindle my glowing desire by rubbing shoulders with a gang of accomplices. Oh, shout out to Gregatron. I just looked up. Gregatron has sent another super chat, so we have made gold. Thank you, Gregatron. You didn't have to do it, but you did. And because of you, we will have more hours of entertainment at the Terry Strange channel. And we're lucky because I'm about to be done here. So thank you. What the hell? Why not? But as it was not the fruit that gave me pleasure, I must have got it from the crime itself, from the thrill of having partners in sin. How can I explain my mood? It was certainly a very vile frame of mind, and one for which I suffered. But how can I account for it? Who knows his own frailties? We were tickled to laughter by the prank we had played, because no one suspected us of it, although the owners were furious. Why was it then that I thought it fun not to have been the only culprit? Perhaps it was because we do not easily laugh when we are alone. True enough, but even when a man is all by himself and quite alone, sometimes he cannot help but laughing, if he thinks or hears or sees something especially funny. All the same, I am quite sure that I would never have done this thing on my own. My God, I lay all this before you, for it is still alive in my memory. By myself I would not have committed that robbery. It was not the takings that attracted me, but the raid itself, and yet to do it by myself would have been no fun, and I should not have done it. This was friendship of a most unfriendly sort, bewitching my mind in an inexplicable way. For the sake of a laugh, a little sport, I was glad to do harm, and anxious to damage another, and that without thought of profit for myself, or retaliation for injuries received. And all because we are ashamed to hold back when others say, "Come on, let's do it." Can anyone unravel this twisted tangle of knots? I shudder to look at or think of such abomination. I long instead for innocence and justice, graceful and splendid in eyes whose sight is undefiled. My longing fills me, and yet it cannot cloy. With them is certain peace and life that cannot be disturbed. The man who enters their domain goes to share the joy of his Lord. He shall know no fear and shall lack no good. In him that is goodness itself, he shall find his own best way of life. But I deserted you, my God, in my youth I wandered away, too far from your sustaining hand, and created of myself a barren waste. And that was book 2 of Confessions by St. Augustine. I like that we made it to book 3 today, so we will be picking up at the start of a new book that will be nice and tidy for when I do the next stream and, type everything up, like I do. Yes, I'm able to type with these talons. You guys like the nails? I did them on stream Friday night, but I didn't really get to put them on the big screen. Do you like them? Nice brown color for the start of August. I don't appreciate the in the chat. If somebody was, I don't even want to talk about it. Y'all. Yoda likes my nails, guys. Thanks. Press 1 in the chat if you would like me to do a video about growing out your nails. How to get nice long talons like Terry Strange has. All natural, guys. Amy wants it. Cool. Yeah, I should do that. I'll tell you how I do it, or at least give you some tricks. Although, to be honest, I've always been somebody who my nails grow particularly fast, so I think that has something to do with it. But I think, in terms of maintenance and that kind of thing, I can definitely give some pointers. Oh, all right. Well, thanks, guys. I'm gonna end this stream, and I'll be starting a new stream shortly. I'm just gonna tidy up a few things and then come back here. So you should see me probably in the next half hour or so. I will start a new stream, and we can chill tonight. It seemed that he did. It seemed that he did. I like how he talked about how the Lord was speaking through his mother, and that he disregarded it because it was her, when he should have listened to who was really speaking. Oh, right on. Right on. Well, cool. I'll be back shortly, guys. Thanks for supporting this endeavor and for voting with your dollars to have a chill stream at the Terry Strange channel tonight. That's rad. I'll try to make it fun and loosey-goosey. And I don't know, but I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Be sure to hit that like on the way out.